No cabinet secretary has the power, through guidance, letters, or otherwise, to wipe out entire sections of the immigration law. But that's what the previous administration did with this deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA policy. Under DACA, without the consent of Congress, individuals here illegally who met certain criteria were granted not only lawful presence, but the work authorization and the right to participate in Social Security, which unlawful immigrants are not entitled to have. So no matter what one thinks about the immigration issues and policy, it cannot be defended, in my opinion, lawfully. So once again, the Department advised and the administration put an end to it. And it's been ended. It's being ended now. The Department is also restoring the rule of law through litigation. Our Solicitor General, Noel Francisco, who I don't know. Yes, he's right. He's a member of this group. One of the very, very long time. The Department is also restoring the rule of law through litigation. The Solicitor General has filed an amicus brief in support of the Colorado baker who was sued for refusing to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding. Although public accommodation laws serve important purposes, they, like other laws, cannot be interpreted to undermine individual freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. That includes the freedom not to provide creative expression for ceremonies that violate one's religious beliefs. So meanwhile, I've changed policies at the Department that support our mission of doing justice by executing the law. For example, we are no longer allowing so-called sanctuary city jurisdictions to nullify federal immigration law if they want to receive discretionary grants. We have placed conditions on these grants to encourage our elected leaders of these states and cities to comply with minimal cooperative requirements to assist in removing criminal aliens from the country. In June, I ended the practice of third-party settlements. Under the last administration, the Justice Department often required settling parties to pay settlement funds to third-party organizations that were not directly involved in the litigation or harmed by the defendant's conduct. We believe that when the federal government settles a case against a corporate wrongdoer, any settlement funds should go first to the victims and then to the United States Treasury, not the bankroll. It's not the bankroll, third-party, special interest groups, or the political friends of whoever is in power. Nowhere does the Constitution grant unelected attorneys, even DOJ, wonderful sainted attorneys, or political appointees, the power to effectively appropriate and distribute United States Treasury funds based on political alliances and friendships. Neither does it give them the power to issue regulations outside the process of Congress's regulatory authorities given by Congress. Too often, rather than going through the long, slow regulatory process provided in statute, agencies make new rules through guidance documents by simply sending out a letter. This cuts off the public from the regulatory process by skipping the required public hearings and comment periods, and it is simply not what these documents are for. Guidance documents should be used reasonably to explain existing law, not to change it or rewrite the law. From now on, at the Department of Justice, that's what we're going to do. I'm announcing today this process is over. So we prohibited all Department of Justice components from issuing any guidance that purports to impose new obligations on any party outside the executive branch. We will review and repeal existing guidance documents that violate this common sense principle. We will also now honor a directive that has been on the books at the Department of Justice since it was ordained by the man sitting in my right, Ed Meese, when he was Attorney General. I am ending regulation by litigation. The days of sue and settle, when special interests could sue an agency, then get the agency to agree to a settlement to impose, in effect, a new regulation to advance an agenda, is over. The Department of Justice is duty-bound to defend laws as they are written. Regardless of whether or not the government likes the results, our agencies must follow law. We're not entitled to make it. Judges in our courts must apply it. But as we know too well, some judges fail to respect Congress and the executive branch. One particularly striking example, it's a bit in my craw, I'll admit, was a federal judge in Brooklyn who heard arguments on a challenge to the federal government's wind down of the DACA. Outside the legal question, the court said to the government, to our government counsel, you can't come into court to espouse a position that is so heartless, close quote. Not unlawful, heartless. With respect, it is the province and duty of the court to say what the law is. I knew you'd get that. They are to apply and follow the law, not advance an ideology or express political beliefs. We cannot allow unelected judges to set policy through an abuse of the adjudicative process. Comments on policy like these from a judge are offensive. They unfairly criticize an attorney who is effectively doing his job. Judges have the solemn responsibility to examine the law impartially. We're going to resist this tendency resolutely. The judicial branch is a co-equal branch. It is not a superior or a policy-setting branch. It needs to know its role. Those who ignore this duty and seek to advance their own policy views erode the entire rule of law. They set bad precedents and, importantly, undermine public respect that's necessary for the courts to function properly. An increasing number of district courts are taking the dramatic step of issuing nationwide injunctions, orders that block the entire United States government from enforcing a statute or an executive branch policy or order nationwide. Scholars have not found a single example of any judge issuing this type of extreme remedy before the 1960s. Never contemplated, apparently, by our founders. But today, in effect, single judges are making themselves super legislatures for the entire United States. We have nearly 600 federal judges, district judges in America, each one with the ability to issue an overreaching nationwide executive order eroding the power of the President of the United States, for example. So the Supreme Court is consistently and repeatedly made clear that courts should limit relief to the parties before them. So if lower courts continue to ignore that precedent, then the Supreme Court should send them that message again. And joining the entire federal government is an extreme, dramatic step. To take that step because of a political agreement would absolutely be unacceptable. The Constitution gives judges no right to veto a president's actions because they disagree with him on policy grounds. So the media, by the way, let me know, only focuses, it seems, on decisions that go against the Department of Justice. But we also have some important wins. The Supreme Court has vacated both of the appellate court rulings against the president's travel pause. They're taking it on the merits, but they vacated the injunctions. We've also successfully obtained before the Second Circuit a rare mandamus order staying a premature and abusive discovery order in a case to stop the wind down of the DACA program. Just an overreach. And I don't know how many times you've seen a mandamus on discovery be granted, but this one was, and we appreciate the appellate court for doing so. And so, although some district courts have initially ruled against us, I'm confident our positions will be vindicated in the Court of Appeals and, if necessary, in the Supreme Court. The President Trump has the statutory authority to suspend immigration in the law of any individual or group of individuals he thinks he deems are contrary to the national interest. His rational, narrow proclamation of a pause from certain countries that are dysfunctional and provide risk is justified within his powers as the chief executive who has the responsibility to protect the public interest, and we're proud to vigorously defend it. So before I conclude, let me say this. There are those in this room, and maybe more than a few in this room, who get frustrated about when they turn on the TV at night, you know, and you have to take Rolaids, and everybody's got an opinion about what the Attorney General should do or what somebody else should do. Well, I get frustrated too. A lot of things I'd like to be able to say and explain, but the rule of law isn't always about getting the outcome you seek. It's using the same fair process, pursuing the truth wherever it leads. We can never allow any part of our legal system, and least of all the Department of Justice, to be reduced to a tool for a political agenda. This department will not make decisions based on politics, ideology, bias, as long as I'm Attorney General. I believe that this is what the American people expect. I think this is what the American people expect and deserve from the Department of Justice. And we will not confirm investigations or leak sensitive law enforcement information to get a few cheap headlines. I am determined, we are determined as a team in the Department of Justice to reestablish proper discipline in these matters that has been eroded. I got my page out of line. You have to come back to that. So in the long run, a failure to fulfill this responsibility can only result, it can only result in a perpetuation and a further decline in respect for justice in America. When anybody asks us to investigate a crime, we will take that seriously. That's part of our duty. We consult with the appropriate law enforcement agencies. We evaluate the evidence. We use our best judgment to make an appropriate decision. And recusals, well, recusals happen all the time throughout the Department of Justice and in private practice, just because we follow the rules. That furthers confidence in justice, doesn't erode it. So I believe that when the history is written about this department, it will reflect that President Trump appointed one of the finest teams ever assembled.
Now arrives the hour of action.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws.
All experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And we're going to take our country back from these people.
What's up, everybody? What day is it? It is Judiciary Saturday night! I don't know what's up with my colors. I have kind of a pink shirt again. Depends on the light. I mean, I've got the same lighting every time, but the colors are different sometimes depending on the camera. So we have one participant from 0347. Let me get your volume up. Make sure you're unmuted. Hello, 0347. Who are we speaking with, please?
This is 8x2.
Hey, Crystal.
Hey.
How are Long time no talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been every time I caught you guys, I've been on hold. Every time.
Every time?
Yes.
Oh, well, you must have been... I've been really, really bad about getting callers in as the show is happening. Like, when somebody calls in after it starts, I really need to let everybody on who calls in after I start the questions and then just put you on mute. I've got a couple of complaints about that. And it's kind of hard, you know, producing this and doing the show at the same time. A lot of work goes into the show. You know, this one, if I had realized that I was going to do a wheel of sessions, you know, at the beginning of the week, then I would have been done with this 24 hours ago. But starting to edit the clips, you know, I have to make notes during the shows and then go through and find the clips. You know, a clip from Kirk's Law Corner could be up to 4 hours sometimes. Actually, he's been a lot better lately. So, you know, I have to find the clips, edit the clips, create a question out of the clip, put it all together on this platform. You know, we're talking dozens of hours sometimes, and then finally, after going through the Kirk, Chris, and Ted's excellent adventure show, I decided after editing the whole show that I wanted to do this, and that was just yesterday. We have another call-in. Admit 3251. Welcome to Judiciary Saturday night. Who are we speaking with, please? Sometimes the delay. You know, when you call in, unlike Blog Talk, you hear nothing in Zoom while you're in the waiting room, so there's a little bit of a delay.
Yes.
So 3251. please let us know you're there as soon as you hear this. Maybe they're in Russia.
Hello?
In which case, hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
All right. Who are we speaking with?
This is Ryan.
Ryan Swindle.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for calling into the show. You know, you can win a shirt if you'll win a shirt either way, as long as you're participating. I mean, not to.
Nice. You can give it to somebody else. I'm a little tiny guy.
Well, I am limited on sizes, since it's just me. I'm not like a corporation or a nonprofit. I'm not selling anything. I'm giving these away, and they are left over from the event in September. But I didn't want to sell any there because it was just too weird. But so I have. For men's, I have large and extra large. So since you're a small guy, you want an extra large, correct?
Yeah, I want one I can swim in.
All right, beautiful. We'll send you a swimming pool. As soon as this is over, you just, a lot of people play and maybe they feel bad or they're not comfortable sending me their address, and I understand. But if you play and you don't send me your address, there's no possible way I can send you a shirt. And there's been a handful of people in the last month who haven't sent me their address, or maybe I skipped over it. I know one went out to Chris, not Chris Hallett, but Chris, what is his name? Rippey? Chris Rippey played last week, and he should have his shirt. And then Brenda obviously got her shirts. But the two other people who played last week, Ante and Neely, never sent me their addresses. I'm not going to drive to your house unless you live like within 5 minutes of me. I don't leave this area very often because of my anxiety. I leave this room, and if I'm not with you guys, people who understand what we're going through, what I'm going through, I'm like heart attack city. I'm like instant panic attack.
Oh yeah, I'm that way in the city too.
Yeah. So we have a march coming up in just a week or so, the first annual New Hampshire suffrage march, and I'll be able to help lead that march because I'll be comfortable with those people. But if I was just to go out by myself and just walk, that would be uncomfortable for me. So we have one more participant. Let's see here. 7856. Hello, 7856. Welcome to Judiciary Saturday nights. Who are we speaking with, please? The delay. Give them 5 seconds.
Hey, Ted.
Hi.
Hi.
Brenda.
It's Brenda.
Hi, Brenda. Thanks for calling.
Hi.
All right.
Molly says hello.
Who?
My dog Molly. You hear her barking?
Molly. Well, I know you have. Never mind. I'm not gonna. All right, we have one more participant. That makes this so much better. 3771.
I don't even know what the rules are.
I'll tell you. No worries. 3771. Hello, 3771. Welcome to Judiciary Saturday nights. Who are we speaking with, please? No, they haven't caught up with the delay yet.
I'm here.
All right, who are we speaking with?
Is this Ted?
Yes.
Hey, Ted, it's Lindsay. Lynn.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Lynn. Lindsay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
It's been a long time. Haven't seen you for like a year. I'll see you at the march.
Awesome.
Lindsay. Hi, Lynn.
Oh, Lindsay.
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm hanging in there. So,
Hi, Lynn. Oh, Lindsay.
Make sure your device, the audio on your device is turned down. I can hear you in the background, or hear me in the background.
yeah. All right, is that better?
Yep, that's a lot better. Thank
All
you,
right.
Lindsay. Thanks for playing, and thanks. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in Concord, New Hampshire.
It's going to be great. I can't wait to see you because we need to speak up more because of the judicial injustice going on around here.
Well, Trump, Trump and Sessions both pay quite a bit of attention to New Hampshire, and that was, Mr. Gill's thought as well.
Oh,
all right. Still getting. All right. I'll have to mute. All right, that should be better. All right, everybody's still with us? Everybody's here. All right, so here is how we play with 3 or more participants. If it was 2 participants, we'd volley the questions back and forth. One participant would answer one, and the next would answer the other. But with 3 participants, this is how we do it, and this is how we played last week. This will be for all of you. Every single question is for each one of you. And as soon as I ask you the question, or if you know the question even beforehand, shout out your name. So Brenda, you would shout out, obviously, Brenda. And then I'd say, okay, Brenda, answer the question. Or Lisa, I'd say, to answer the question, you would say, Lisa. And then I'd say, okay, Lisa, answer the question. That's how we play this. So that's like your bell. Boom, your name is your bell. So as soon as you know the answer, shout out your name, and you'll get it right. And it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. For now, anyways, you get a shirt either way. So are you guys ready to play?
Yeah.
Judiciary! Saturday night. So this is actually Wheel of Sessions. All of these questions are based on Sessions' speech from about a week and a half ago. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the first annual New Hampshire Christmas suffrage march. But here is the first question. Here we go.
I want to put this hope out there to you because of what Jeff Sessions has done. I mean, why is all of a sudden the judge allowing people to read the Constitution aloud in court, on the record, to the jury? Why is all of a sudden the judge going, okay, we're gonna do pretrial release on these guys? The public was not allowed to have a pocket Constitution in their pocket. The judge was flat out saying, you can't even bring up the Constitution. And Ryan Bundy's now allowed to actually break out his Constitution and read from it to the jury. This is giving hope to the people because this is the rule of law that Jeff Sessions is putting the smackdown on.
So that was the first question I edited, and if I had realized that I wanted to do a Wheel of Judiciary Sessions edition, I would have saved a lot of time. But there was, unfortunately, there's a lot of good information in that show and previous shows this week, but I really felt that I needed to cover this so people understood what his message was. So, like Kirk said, and he was referencing his breaking news story when when Sessions. So what is Sessions' main message in his speech? A, immigration. Brenda.
It's B, proprietor's right to refuse service.
Well, Oops. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
Oh!
He does speak about that, but that's not the main message. Sorry, Brenda. Anybody else?
I can't see the option because I'm on my phone.
Okay, so what is Jeff Sessions' main message in his speech? A, immigration. B, proprietors' right to refuse service. C, Trump's involvement with Russia.
Ryan.
D, fixing the erosion of law the lower courts have caused. All right. Well,
that's it. Yeah.
Who?
C.
C?
Lynn. C.
Lynn, C. Nope, that is incorrect. Ryan?
Oh, man.
Oh, I said D too.
You said D. D
Yep.
as in dog.
D as in dog.
Ow, it hurts to clap my hands. I'm still not healed from this freaking surgery. Yes, fixing the erosion of law the lower courts have caused. Yeah, and so let's go right into the video answer real quick. This is Jeff himself, and this is actually the same clip that the ad for the show is.
Today, in effect, single judges are making themselves super legislatures for the entire United States. An increasing number of district courts are taking the dramatic step of issuing nationwide injunctions, orders that block the entire United States government. The Department of Justice is duty-bound to defend laws as they are written. Our agencies must follow law. We're not entitled to make it. But as we know too well, some judges fail to respect Congress and the executive branch. It is the province and duty of the court to say what the law is. They are to apply and follow the law, not advance an ideology or express political beliefs. We cannot allow unelected judges to set policy through an abuse of the adjudicative process. Judges have the solemn responsibility to examine the law impartially. The judicial branch is a co-equal branch. It is not a superior or a policy-setting branch. It needs to know its role. Those who ignore this duty and seek to advance their own policy views erode the entire rule of law. I am determined, we are determined as a team in the Department of Justice to reestablish proper discipline in these matters that has been eroded. When anybody asks us to investigate a crime, we will take that seriously. That's part of our duty.
So that is my edit. And there's a lot more he talked about, obviously, even in judicial accountability. But I wanted people to make sure they got this message. This is what he talks about throughout the whole thing. And I am inclined to believe that he is using immigration or the immigration issue to fix the insanity in the lower courts, although I could very well be wrong. It could be the opposite. Either way, as long as you are not overly sensitive, you would have been able to hear his main message loud and clear behind freedom of religious expression and immigration policy. So he used, Obama's immigration policy, which might sound heartless, but at the same time, it is what, as Kirk says, what the law says, or what the law is, and that is the only thing the judiciary can determine. That's their only job. They cannot make law. They cannot make policy. They can only tell you what the law is and judge on existing law. So, those things he talked about were examples of judicial overreach. We have a huge problem. We know it, but the general public seems to almost purposely be ignorant of it. The lower courts have been eroding the foundation of our law. And even eroding the position of the President of the United States all the way back to the 60s he's talking about. You know, he should know he's about the same age as Don Rufty, and Don has a lot of good information even on the history of our movement all the way back through the 90s. So Jeff says that practice of judges creating legislation ends now. That's it. So I'll go further into how this impacts us later. Congratulations, Ryan. You have that first one correct. Let's move on to question number 2 on Judiciary Saturday night.
Recusals happen all the time throughout the Department of Justice and in private practice.
Recusals. It's interesting. It caught that right at the end. What is a recusal exactly? A, removing the defendant. B, removing the case. C, removing the transcriptionist. Or D, removing the judge.
Brenda. D. It's D, removing the judge.
You are correct, Brenda. Congratulations. Let's go to the video answer.
Just because we follow the rules. That furthers confidence in justice, doesn't erode it.
Yep, that was a quick video answer and question. Judicial disqualification, also referred to as recusal, is the act of banning a judge or administrative officer from participation in an official action such as a legal proceeding due to a conflict of interest. Few matters relating to judicial disqualification rise to a constitutional level, but Title 40, Sections 1, 2, and 3 examine these 3 situations in which the Supreme Court has held that the due process of law requires a judge's recusal. Congratulations, Brenda, that is correct. And if you want to look up Title 40, Sections 1, 2, and 3, I started to, but it's enough. Those 3 sections are nothing I've ever looked at before, so and it wasn't anything I recognized. So I didn't really look into it. I didn't have the time for the purposes of the show. But I encourage you all to look into that, especially Brenda. You know, you're in paralegal school. Chris, of course, Kirk. If you guys want to look into that and see how it relates to us, that could help us quite a bit. Are you guys ready for question number 3?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
Although public accommodation laws serve important purposes.
Oh, that was a quick one too. What are public accommodation laws? A, restriction of goods and services to the public. B, right of access. C, accommodation of due process. D, first right of refusal.
Lynn.
Brian, B.
I heard Lynn
C.
first.
D.
Which one? B as in boy or D as in dog?
D as in dog.
D as in dog?
Yep.
I'm sorry, Lynn.
Ryan.
It's B.
B as in boy? That's the only one.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ryan. Yes, right of access. Let's go to the video answer.
They, like other laws, cannot be interpreted to undermine individual freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment.
Wow, that was another quick one. So, the public accommodation statutes of most states and many municipalities prohibit discrimination by private citizens who control access to public facilities. These statutes were enacted to ensure that all members of society have equal access to goods and services. In creating a right of access, however, the statutes inevitably conflict with the First Amendment right of a proprietor to select those with whom he does business, and that's why he talked about the cake, the gay cake. This means that if you this means that if your religious practice does not recognize gay marriage, you do not have to bake them a cake, for instance. ADA, that's the big one, and that's why he mentioned it. Under our First Amendment rights, it's not only right to religion, but right to religious practice. So if you're practicing in a business, and unfortunately, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this either way, but since we know, if you're familiar with the Bible, it doesn't say very good things about homosexuality. It's there. So if you don't want to bake them a cake based on religion, then you don't have to anymore. That's your choice.
Well, I thought in this country we had the right to refuse service to anybody we wanted to, but apparently not.
Well, it's technically, if you look at it doesn't take long to read the First Amendment. It's like 3 sentences, but they're four. But they're very, very important, especially the last one to us. Right to seek redress when the government does us wrong, and that's exactly how we're going to get redress for the destruction that family court and CPS has done to us. But it is really religious practice, not freedom of religion, but religious practice is part of the First Amendment, and that's how that has been determined by the judiciary to be able to refuse service to certain people based on religion, because that's in our First Amendment. Freedom of religion is numero uno. That's the number one in the Constitution. Right. The First Amendment of the Constitution. The first sentence is freedom of religion. And so the ADA, there's other parts of this, but the ADA accessible entrances have encroached on public areas, giving public property to the proprietor. But I think that's for good reason. If you are to rally, and this is for us coming up, or, I talked about this a lot as we're, coming up to the September event, is if you are to rally or march in a non-written protest of something, hopefully Kirk appreciates that, you must remember that you are, in a way, sort of, no longer public, and you must allow non-participating pedestrians the right of way, technically. You cannot obstruct the public in any way. So if you're marching, you stay to one side. If you're rallying in a specific location, you have to make sure you keep part of the sidewalk clear. In downtown DC, that's pretty easy because the sidewalks, like around the FBI building, are huge. They're very wide. But if you are to stop in front of a building and you can't walk on the grass and the sidewalk's only, 3 feet wide, you need to make sure, to be safe, you stay in single file along the inside so pedestrians can walk along the outside. So, congratulations, Ryan. Let's move on to question 4. You guys ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
The department is also restoring the rule of law through litigation. In June, I ended the practice of third-party settlements.
Third-party settlements. What is a third-party settlement? A, payment given to an organization not directly affected. B, payments from an organization not directly responsible. C, forced investments in certain products, restoration, or infrastructure. Or D, all of the above.
Ryan, A.
Ryan. A, you're not wrong, but Brenda or Lindsay?
Lindsay. All of them.
All of them.
It's B. Yeah.
It is all of them. And this was a hard one to research because I wasn't, when you put all of the above, a lot of times it's like, well, duh, that's the answer. But but they do all three of those things, the third party settlements. So let me get into that. We'll listen to the video answer first, of course. Here we go.
Under the last administration, the Justice Department often required settling parties to pay settlement funds to third-party organizations that were not directly involved in the litigation or harmed by the defendant's conduct. We believe that when the federal government settles a case against a corporate wrongdoer, any settlement funds should go first to the victims and then to the United States Treasury, not the bankroll.
So that's interesting. He is really specifically talking about corporations here. And let me blow this up so I can read this. If I could memorize these things, I would, but I didn't do very good in language arts in 5th grade. I spent every single recess memorizing shit. I didn't go outside all year. So if you are injured on the job, workers' compensation laws prohibit you from suing your employer. Instead, you are entitled to financial compensation through your employer's workers' compensation insurance. Now, this is where the third-party payments come in, and part of what will stop if, however, a third party other than your employer shared liability for your injuries, you can pursue a personal injury claim against that third party. So, under this new policy, you won't be able to do that. And there's good and bad in that. I'm not going to get into it. But so when companies settle claims of wrongdoing, they are often compelled to pay for environmental or community development projects, as well as pay fines and direct compensation to victims. Sometimes the third-party payments are only marginally related to the damages caused by the company's actions. The big issue here is that some of the third-party money is going to favored organizations because there's no regulation. Now, instead of a random third party getting a settlement, it will go to the Treasury for them to decide where and how to use the money. Critics say that ending third-party payments this way will jeopardize the source of financing for initiatives across the country that supporters say have paid great environmental and social dividends, like restoring the Gulf Coast after the BP oil spill. It also forced Volkswagen to invest $2 billion in electric charging stations, which is laughable to me. That's why I put LOL. And I'm sure VW will make back the $14.5 billion settlement with that one investment. But that's actually a good example of the maxim of law in action, sort of. It's kind of like that girl who walked 30 miles instead of spending, 30 days in jail. They made Volkswagen invest in something that will benefit us in the future, even though it'll benefit them even more financially. I don't believe that third-party payments will stop technically. It will be regulated in a way so the money is used for things like restoration and not the aforementioned. Not slush funds to preferred organizations. So right now, in a company settlement, if you win, you can say who the third party is. It could be a friend of yours, whatever. Now the Treasury will make sure that it's used in a way that benefits the country and doesn't necessarily benefit a favored individual or favored organization. All right, are you guys ready for question number 5?
Yes. Yes.
Here we go.
Rather than going through the long, slow regulatory process provided in statute, agencies make new rules through guidance documents by simply sending out a letter.
Boom. What the hell are guidance documents? A list of personnel. B, a definition of standards or exceptions. C, a purpose amendment to what the heck? Something amendment to the Constitution. Oh, proposed. A proposed amendment to the Constitution. Or D, a description of House or Senate bills. So what are guidance documents?
Lynn.
Who is this?
Lynn.
Lynn, go ahead.
A.
Sorry, Lynn, it is not a list of personnel. So what we have left is B, a definition of standards or exceptions. C, a proposed amendment to the Constitution. D, a description of House or Senate bills. What are guidance?
C. Brenda.
Brenda.
Hello. I think it's B, a definition of standards or exceptions.
Congratulations, Brenda. That is correct. Let's check the video answer.
This cuts off the public from the regulatory process by skipping the required public hearings and comment periods, and it is simply not what these documents are for. Guidance documents should be used reasonably to explain existing law, not to change it or rewrite the law. I'm announcing today this process is over. We will review and repeal existing guidance documents that violate this common sense principle.
That is big for us. Let me say a little bit why. So while guidance documents are not usually enforceable rules or requirements by themselves, they often define standards or exceptions. There you go, Brenda, which are part of a rule or requirement. Guidance documents are also used to explain internal policies or practices to simplify an organization's interactions with their parties. Guidance documents must not set new legal standards, but that's what's happening, or impose requirements, but that's what's happening. I am sure you can imagine a guidance document from CPS. So I was curious.
Family safety plan.
I looked at the latest CPS guidance document. I found 12 pages of editions. Many of them were Native American editions, saying, well, this tribe is Native American, and we know that Native Americans, because of their culture, they get a little bit more money. So it's not surprising to see a lot more editions with Native Americans and CPS. That means more money for them. But also, and if you listen to Francesca's show on Thursday with Christine Radcliffe, the Mound Sisters, she's the mother of the Mound Sisters. So a new edition, and I say new, but this could have been, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a new edition, child sex trafficking. They just put that in this year. And it says, it adds the definition of sex trafficking risk factors, but gives no actual definition. It just says, we're adding it, but there's no definition. It also added a 6-month review for any child suspected of needing foster care, which to me means will be used by most facilities as a license to harass children and families. And
exactly.
Yep. And I'm all for anything that gets rid of child sex trafficking or child trafficking in any way. Anything related, if you're still into Pizzagate, anything related to that. But if it's not clear, it will be taken advantage of, like the Mound Sisters, who fortunately or unfortunately for them, Arabic communities seemed to gravitate towards them when they were popular, and they made them even more popular. And of course, you get pockets in every community who don't really do good things. So they were, you know, on somebody's live feed, and all of a sudden there was inappropriate material, people showing their cocks. And their parents took them right off of that immediately, but CPS used that as a way to they couldn't charge the parents with trafficking, so they charged them with indecent exposure, but not of her daughters. They charged, and not even the dad, they charged the mother with indecent exposure, which she never exposed herself. It's the craziest thing when you say that you're going to do something and you put it in there half-assed, like CPS does with almost everything. This is what happens. And now these two girls, 17 and 13, are being abused in foster care. They're running away from foster care. Now the oldest one is in lockdown because she keeps running away. She has been sexually abused in foster care. She wasn't sexually abused before they took her because of sex trafficking, because of the alleged sex trafficking that didn't happen. But she was abused once CPS took her. This is where I understand that, you know, Francesca says that it has to be abolished. CPS should just be abolished and remade. I completely understand that. There needs to be something in place for the children who are, in fact, abused. But this lack of oversight, the public really needs to be involved in this, because this is insanity. And the first thing that needs to happen is, no matter what the circumstances, the children must go with extended family. There cannot be the current incentives of $20,000 a month per child in state custody. That doesn't mean $20,000 a month if they're with extended family either. They get no money.
Disabled, there's more than that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There's
you're absolutely correct.
Still in disabled children because of the money.
Yep. Well,
that's exactly what they're doing today.
Yeah, Melissa McDonald, which I might be interviewing this week, her son, who is older as well, they keep pumping him full of medication to make him disabled, to say he's disabled, to get that extra money. It's absolutely terrifying, and it needs to end as soon as possible. And really, we have some work to do to get Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump aware of these. But guidance documents, I mean, if there's any guidance documents that should be referenced here, it's CPS's guidance documents. So let's move right on.
Hey, Ted?
Yes. Go ahead.
I just wanted to briefly mention about CPS is they are very aware of the parents attacking what they're doing now and our intentions of abolishing them completely. So I have two clients in the state of Alabama who are medically kidnapped by adult protective services. These are elderly people that have been forcibly removed from their homes and put in nursing homes, and their children being accused of abuse to the parents. So, wow.
Yeah, they're trying to do that right now with my mother-in-law. I don't know if you know about it, Ted. We went through CPS ourselves, and that went through 9 years of it. And now they're going after my mother-in-law.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, we need to talk.
We're not just being hit up, once. We're going all the way. They're going to steal every family member we have.
Unbelievable. We need to talk about senior citizens more involving this. I know Brenda is very involved. There's a lady, I've got to make sure I connect you to her, Brenda. There's a lady who does a show, and unfortunately I think it's on Mondays. Maybe I can get her to switch. to Tuesdays or something, so I can cover it. But it sounds like she's in our movement, but she's more focused on how the elderly are victims, even more so than children in CPS, because forgive me because I haven't researched this anywhere near as much as I should have, but they can literally take every last penny controlled by that senior citizen. Doesn't matter.
Oh, and they do.
Yep.
That's exactly what's happened here. They've taken everything.
They're trying to force us to sell off our family's real estate.
Entire
They're
estate.
trying to force us to sell off their everything, their property, whatever. They're trying to make us sell it all off.
It's complete insanity, and something that.
And then the state homes are awful. Like when you walk in, and I don't know if, like a few weeks ago, Ted, I had to go and look into skilled nursing facilities. And I walked into this one place, and it was just awful. Everybody was sitting in diapers. Nobody was being taken care of. The whole time we were there, this one guy sat in the hall. We were there for about an hour and a half in a dirty diaper, and nobody paid attention to him.
I know.
They've got him chemically restrained.
Oh, yeah.
They dosed him up with heavy doses of Seroquel.
Yeah, my mom worked at a nursing home during, when I was younger, even into my teens, when I started, delivering pizzas while I was in high school. I remember one situation going into where my mom worked, and didn't seem horrible. There wasn't any bad smell. We're in the Hanover, New Hampshire, Dartmouth College. It seems to me, I wasn't an expert, but it seemed like people were pretty well taken care of. And but this one lady, you have to go into the lockdown section. So, you put in the code. I don't know why they didn't come out to meet me, but I had to go in to meet them. And this one, I'm not even going to go into it, but this one lady literally thought in her head that she was like 18 years old. And she was at least 90. It was very amusing. But that's aside. That's completely different from what you guys are talking about. There needs to be regulations put in place to make sure that these agencies, these elderly agencies, very similar to CPS, can't just take entire estates. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're all right. Somebody's joining us now all of a sudden. Who is that? Oh, Kirk. Hey, Kirk.
This is Lynn.
Hey, Lynn.
So can I just tell you that I was recently invited to sit in on some of the DCYF changes in the hearings in Concord with the Foster Alliance program and the DCYF, the board that's going to change DCYF policies.
Concord, New Hampshire?
By Jennifer Smith over at the governor's office in New Hampshire.
Awesome.
With problems that I've been having. So I don't know if maybe you want to connect another time, or if there's anybody that needs to connect.
Well,
and I can bring those concerns up to Concord and move forward.
Let's talk. I mean, the event is on Thursday the 14th. We're doing a practice walk tomorrow. I'm driving down to Concord to walk the route with a couple of folks if you want to join us.
Yeah, what time is the practice walk at? Because I couldn't make the meeting last week.
It's 2 o'clock tomorrow, or I think it's 2.
All right.
Yeah, 2 o'clock.
All right, will you message me the info, and I will meet you there. I will have one of my kids with me. I won't have Daisy with me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's not a long march. It's,
awesome.
We can make it longer. That's why we're meeting is, but I'll talk to you. All right, so we have 2 more questions. Kirk is now with us, so jump in if you want. Kirk, here's...
Hey, Kirk.
Hello.
That's Brenda.
Hello.
Here is question 6. Are you guys ready to play?
Yeah.
Judiciary! Saturday nights! Here we go.
I am ending regulation by litigation.
There's another quick one. So, define regulation through or by litigation. A, laws made by legislation. B, laws that are voted on. C, the removal of inferior or out-of-date laws. Or D, laws made during court proceedings.
D, Brian.
Sorry, I deceased.
D.
D, everybody's saying D?
I say
Yep.
E.
Yeah. Lynn, G.
Laws made during court. So let's
Sorry,
check
I
out let's check out the video answer. Let me shut this off first, though.
The days of sue and settle, when special interests could sue an agency, then get the agency to agree to a settlement, in effect a new regulation to advance an agenda, is over.
I love it. That's huge as well, and impacts us as well, because we know. Well, I'll just read what I wrote, because I wouldn't remember it otherwise. Not exactly the way I've wrote it. So, regulation through litigation refers to changes in society brought about by litigation, rather than doing what the rest of us have to do: create a bill, get it sponsored by a member of the House or Senate, who then have to vote on the bill before it becomes law. Some lower court judges literally take it upon themselves to determine what is best for our country instead of following what the law says. Kirk.
Yep.
I still believe all new and even current laws should be voted on by the people now that we have the means to do so, but that's my extreme point of view. Doctrines such as
relating to
doctrines such as parens parenti and in the child's best interests, that which is a doctrine, will be as useful as freaking toilet paper in the lower courts because of this. We still need to make Sessions and Trump aware of these violations, however. So it's.
So I'm going to put this philosophical question out there.
Go right ahead.
I guess I kind of consider myself a philosopher now, because.
Okay. I hear you.
So guidance documents, statutes, codes. That's where you actually find your statutes, is in the code. Everything you'll find is in the code. Statutes, rules, regulations, policies, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
If none of those are law, wouldn't those be considered guidance documents? Because they're supposed to codify the law. And what
I would think so.
Said was, these are documents that are supposed to be talking about what the law actually, what it is, how it is written. We always say what it says. And
Right.
Somebody made a comment on Chris Hallett's
What it
Amber and
is.
Steve thing, calling us idiots because it doesn't say what it says. Yes, it does. When you read it as it is written, it says what it says, because I speak it. When you speak the written language or the law, it says what it says.
Yeah.
I say what it says. I'm reading it. So if, again, statutes, codes, rules, regulations, ordinances, policies, blah, 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 if those are not law, those are all guidance documents.
Right.
Every single piece of it.
What I specifically looked up, quote unquote guidance documents, I found some. But most of them were, I didn't find any real legal, like court-ordered guidance documents. I found the CPS, organizations guidance documents. So, I think, you're onto something there, because in the short, couple hours I researched it and everything I read, I didn't really find anything that said court guidance documents or guidance.
Right.
So, no, that's curious. That's a good point.
A form of government, how things actually work is, we the people see a need and we go, okay, well, let's create this agency. And I'll take you back to, my own Idaho code, Title 74, Ethics in Government, Section 201, which specifically says the people of the state of Idaho do not yield their sovereignty to the agency so created.
Right.
So when we see a need, we're allowed to create an agency and go, okay, now the way government works is the legislative branch, which is we, the people, us, say, okay, we see a need here. Let's go ahead and create this agency to handle this. And we create guidance documents that guide the agency in performing their duties, their ministerial duties, their moral duties and ethical obligations under the law. The law says this, or read this. It is written this way. So it says what it says when I read it.
Yep.
And you, as an agency, cannot act outside of that. And we, the people, can't even delegate an authority that would be in conflict or repugnant to the law.
Right.
That's it's principles of law. 2 + 2 = 4. And I don't care what mathematical equation, how long and how big you make it, and what formulas you use. In the end, 2 + 2 still equals 4, and you can't change that fundamental principle. Now, you might have other variables, and there's actually a term for that. There's an exception to the rule of law.
Right.
So like making an arrest. Okay, you can't, in accordance with the Fourth Amendment, you can't make an arrest without a warrant.
I really wish that
the rule is, except for felonies. It has to be, put out there in a doctrine. Okay, per this strict scrutiny test, a governmental compelling interest. Okay, anytime you have a governmental compelling interest in, let's say, making an arrest, okay, there's an exception to the rule.
I really wish
it has to be for a felony happening directly in front of you.
Yeah.
You're a police officer or whatever, because we all have the same right to make an arrest.
Yeah.
Okay? Nobody is better than anyone else on making an arrest or exercising any rights under the law.
I wish they would do public meetings, the DOJ, so we could have a better understanding of what their thought process is on these things. But it's, it's hard to determine. We can talk and philosophize about these things, which is probably very similar to what they're talking about. But, we have nothing to lose. They have everything to lose. So I could imagine that if they're talking or unsure about something, if they were to have a public meeting like we would have these public meetings, some of their careers might be over pretty quick. Who knows?
They don't want a public meeting because then they have to answer questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just so you know, every January through March, they're in session.
Right.
They're supposed to have open public meetings regarding any kind of legislation, or just a straight, hi, I'm one of the people of Idaho, and this statute is in violation of the supreme law of the land, or the law of the state of Idaho, which is Constitution. Constitutions is law.
Right.
Declarations of independence, that declarations in themselves are law. Bills of rights, that's law.
Yep.
Okay. Statutes, codes, rules, regulations, ordinances, blah 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 it's not law. Period. Plain and simple.
Right. Well,
that's being fooled that is the law when somebody tells you,
exactly,
like Peter out there trying to tell people what it says.
Right. Doctrines are not law, and that's what Jeff Sessions is saying is these doctrines are not law, and New York is the #1 offender of this. There is a judge in New York and the Bronx. I don't think it was Brooklyn. I'm pretty sure he said Bronx, who said that, this immigration policy is so horrible, I'm so offended, so I'm not going to listen to the government. I'm going to do what I want to do. That's a lower court saying this. I'm just going to do what I want to do, and I'm in New York, so I can do it. That's ending. He's putting an end to that. This should evolve into putting an end to doctrines like parens parenti and in the child's best interest doctrine. But in the sake of time, let's move on to the last question. This isn't Sessions related, but it is related to the upcoming event in New Hampshire. So everybody get ready to sing. You ready? Ready to sing, Kirk? Brenda? Ryan?
Okay.
Lynn? Here we go.
I want to come to that, actually.
That would be awesome. See if I can sing this.
I love this.
This is brand new. I just put this together this morning.
Oh, it's a new one? Cool.
Parents, we have heard on high, something stopping very soon. Session said to read the law, beloved Constitution. Family law, family law, family law, family law. No more extortion. Family law, family law, family law, family law. No more extorting families. Come sit in the court, you'll see atrocities you can't believe. Contempt to jail both mom and dad. Money owed they do not have. Family law, family law, family law, family law, family law, law. No more extortion. Family law, family law, family law, family law. No more extorting families. Wait for it.
This is great.
1 in 100 of us are incarcerated. Just 20 more years of this, our country will not exist. Family law, family law, family law. No more extortion. Family law, family law, family law. No more extorting families.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome. I love it. Can I play that at my next hearing?
Yes, yes. So that is the New Hampshire Christmas Suffrage March meeting at White Park in Concord, Thursday, December 14th. Oops, crap, and there's the question. So when is the New Hampshire Christmas Suffrage March? A, Sunday the 3rd.
December 14th.
Yeah, the 14th. Congratulations. So yeah, there's some pictures. There's the state build, the Capitol right there in the lower left-hand corner. Then above that is, you know, at the very end across Main Street. And then a picture inside. And there's a picture of a Christmas tree lighting. I think your niece is crying for you, Kirk. And then, of course, Jeff Sessions pointing at the crowd. So I'm hoping that that we'll have a giant crowd just like that. At least, you know, 20,000 of us or so. But so that's it. I want to make sure everybody knows this. I'm pushing it on TFRM. I posted it on their discussion group. Hopefully it'll be shared around New England, because it's not just New Hampshire. There's a new New England group just created to get people who are affected in all 6 states in New England: Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, together to make sure that all of us get to events in each state, because New England is smaller than a lot of other states. Combined, we're smaller than a lot of other states, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm really excited to put this together. You know, I've only been, really involved with this movement for, like a year and a half now. And I try and push my understanding. I try and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn. And maybe doing this show and, getting rid of my fear of, talking in public and stuff. Maybe all of this was supposed to lead up to the New Hampshire Christmas Suffrage March. I don't know, but I'm all set for it. I'm really freaking wicked psyched about it. That's how you'd say it if you were in New Hampshire.
Yeah, freaking excited. Wicked.
Freaking
if you're
excited.
From Mass.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Or if from Mass, yes, New Hampshire or Mass.
It's wicked excited.
Wicked freaking excited.
Ted, I think I've learned more from Laws for Dummies and just being involved in this movement than I actually have in my classes.
Well, it certainly helps if you're already in that mindset, Brenda, where you're learning. You're going to soak even more up. So somebody in your position, already in school, I mean, it's going to benefit you 5 times more than most. It's hard for people to wrap their heads around this, and that's why I did this show, to try and make it in a way, because I don't freaking get it. Half the shit that Kirk and Chris are talking about is like and
I have to write everything down and look it up, most everything.
Yeah.
But I will say they explain it so much better than my professors. Now, actually, I have the highest grades in my courses, and I'm sure it's because of you guys. Because I watch everything you do. If I'm not here in the show, I'm right after it watching. So I really appreciate all of you.
You've been a huge help. You've helped with questions. Even this week, you had a bunch of questions ready for me to find and take clips of, and fortunately or unfortunately, I decided to do a complete sessions show. So we might take some of the clips from this week and add them to next week. Maybe do an even longer show. But I felt like that had to be done.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well,
I actually want to revise those because, I told you I may or may not have been having some company lately, so I didn't put my full attention on that, and I really want to.
If anybody, now listen, anybody watching, we have 200 people watching live right now.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. If any of you watching want to, if you see something you want reiterated on Wheel of Judiciary, that's what this show is for. So send me a message and say, I'd like to know more about this, and I'll make it a question, and I'll research it as much as you can. I'm going to lead us out with another Christmas carol I made. But before I go, Kirk, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here, since you're here with us?
Made full of things that I can say at any time. So,
that's probably why when you used to call in.
I do want to say this.
Yeah.
Awesome work, brother. I loved it. You are a very talented man.
Thank you.
Yes, he is.
I do the best I can, and
Well, that's all we can ask, right?
Right. So if I'm helping people, I'm super psyched that this has helped you, and I very proud to be able to help you, Kirk. We met through you calling into the show that promoted the September event. And I definitely know that you have a lot to say, because I probably put you on mute 24 times, but you are always very understanding. So that, and when you don't know somebody, we had never talked or anything. You just kind of got to roll with the punches that way. And then I started listening to your show and was amazed at the information you were putting out, that it seemed to me that everybody that I had talked to were kind of catching up to what you were already talking about. People seem to be unsure of this or that. Well, I'm not going to mention anybody, but it's tempting.
Right. But there's definitely people out there that do their own research, and they're at a point where they think they understand something. And this even happens to me, I'm not perfect, and I do not know every single subject matter of every single topic within law.
Yeah.
I find stuff that, there's a saying out there. It's like, I learn something new every day. What I learned today was what I learned yesterday was wrong.
Yeah, it's an evolutionary process. This whole thing, we're learning that a lot of these doctrines and, not statutory, but case law is just a complete effing bunch of garbage. And now Sessions said he's putting an end to it all. Thank God. So let's hold his feet to the fire on that.
I did want to touch on that because, when we talk about the parens patriae, that comes from the common law of England.
Yeah.
Now,
before cars, cell phones.
Here, right. So we have law here that specifically says, okay, the common law of England is in full force and effect so long as it is not repugnant to our law. So we have, this is the problem with parens patriae, is the king has the final authority over your children.
Right.
That is repugnant to our creator endowed rights, the law of nature, liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is repugnant to that. So that's why it was codified into the child's best interest doctrine.
Right.
Because when it is repugnant to our law, yet it is still, see, this is the part people don't quite understand, is we are under the law of England. That's where we came from. The Magna Carta, 1215.
A lot of it.
That's why the common law of England is in full force and effect here.
If people in New York are using parens patriae to the extent that Peter is saying, we are basically, we're using things older than the Magna Carta. Parens patriae was, this is a good example of if you're in an English kingdom and you're in an outlying town and that town was invaded by Vikings, there's no phones, there's no health care, there's nothing. If the Vikings killed everybody in the town, obviously didn't get all the children, what do you do with the children? That's how parens patriae started. The children became the property of the kingdom. And somehow that, through the game of telephone over the last 1,000 years, has turned into a doctrine that says family court judges have jurisdiction over you as a parent, and that's a bunch of effing crap. They absolutely don't.
Especially when they're making dangerous decisions.
Yeah, it's insanity what's been happening, and if we hold Sessions' feet to the fire about what he said, this will end. What his speech will help us end this. I'll look over at Peter's comments.
In reality, what the problem is the bar. The British Accreditation Registry, again, back under the British Crown. This is what was fought against back in 1812. The bar takes over and they create these statutes. There are representatives. A lot of our representatives, a lot of the judges, they're all bar attorneys.
Yep.
So, this is what, I've read from the Declaration for the Necessity of Taking Up Arms, and it talks about this ministerial enemy. Okay? What are they talking about?
Right.
That's who they're talking about. The bar.
Yep. Yeah.
The king institutes these esquires. So ask yourself, if you're an esquire, Peter, anyone else, the Constitution of the United States of America specifically says titles of nobility are prohibited in this country.
That's always been something.
The 13th Amendment says you cease to be a citizen of the United States.
Yep.
Therefore, you don't even exist in our law. You shouldn't be practicing your law because that's why you're supposed to, the U.S. Code says you're supposed to have a foreign agent registration because you're foreign to our form of government.
Yeah.
You can go practice law over there in England where your esquire is you're accepted. It's not accepted here in this country.
Right. One of the questions.
But that's the reality. People don't know our history. That's part of what I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to teach the people what it reads, what it says. It's all documented.
It's great.
There's a lot of it.
And I'm glad you're doing it.
I expect everyone to read that. Hell, I'm way far behind on trying to read every piece of document paper that's ever been written. Trust me.
Yeah.
But I'm trying.
One of the questions that was going to come into this show before I decided to do a Sessions edition was, and I forget his name now, but he called in on Wednesday, and he was describing New York and researching. New York doesn't have the same 4-tier court system like we do. They've completely renamed all the courts. They don't even have a state Supreme Court like every other state does. But I don't want to get into that too much. I have something I need to do at 9:30. So would anybody like to say something real quick just in ending?
Hey, Ted, I really, truly appreciate your friendship through the system in meeting you. Oh, I don't know, at the beginning of both of our journeys. But
Thank you, Liz.
Something that I would love to be able to talk to you about in depth more at another time is the family courts ignoring the victims' bills of rights and only focusing on the financial aspects.
Yes, yeah.
And the consistency with doing that in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
They just kind of focused my experience as a state of New Hampshire. But I'd love a chance to be able to speak to you about that and give some input and maybe get some questions on that.
Absolutely, and we'll have a lot of time on the 14th, but we can definitely talk before that. Thank you so much for playing, Lindsay, and thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Brenda. If you guys want to send me your address, I'll send you one of the Marches shirts. And if you're coming to the event on the 14th, whatever I have left of these shirts, I'll be giving away there for free. So, thank you, Kirk, for joining us. Appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ted.
And I'm gonna
Much
leave
love
you.
to all you out there. Love, hope, and prayer. There is hope, folks.
Yes.
Rule of law is coming back.
Oh, and just FYI, Kirk's Law Corner, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, Neil Shelton did a show for the first time in a while last Thursday, so that sparked Randy Davis to pick up his show again on Sundays. So keep an eye out tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, Sunday. I'll be sharing it. I think I'll be producing it. One of the guests is Philly Slim, so I'll be able to hopefully pull some clips of his music and stuff. Should be really a fun show. Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Randy Davis. Just watch out for me sharing it. Rev it up. Rev it up, Davis.
All right.
And then Monday.
Have a good night.
You too. Monday, don't miss Kirk's Law Corner. You guys have a great night.
Wednesdays.
Thank you.
And Wednesdays. The call-in show with Kirk. The Kirk, Chris, and Ted's Excellent Adventure call-in show. Don't miss that Wednesdays. Love you guys.
Love you.
Good work
Bye.
today.
Thank you, Ryan. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Family love, family love, you've destroyed all our lives, profiting off of our nation. Title for E and for D, and title for us, please. Family law, family law, the cancer of America. We won't stop till you pay for your crimes and redress received for our lives. If Christ the Savior is reborn, He will end Title IV. Good night, everybody.
No cabinet secretary has the power through guidance, letters, or